After 5 months of work, the restoration of the tomb of Lazarus in Bethany, the Arab Al-Azariya, has been completed. The visit to the village of Martha, Mary and Lazarus by the consul general of Italy in Jerusalem, Giuseppe Fedele. Restoration work on the church and monastery of the Dormition on Mount Zion in Jerusalem will begin in January 2021. The German Benedictine monks, who have been there for 120 years, have maintained a strong bond with Germany, from where most of the funding for the intervention comes. Inside the ethnographic mosaic that makes up the Holy Land, we find the Circassians, about 5,000 people from the Caucasus Mountains, who live mainly in 2 villages in Galilee, Kfar Kama and Riania. The 4th episode of the series in the Holy Land dedicated to the Lord's Prayer is based on the reflections of Pope Francis on the prayer that Jesus taught us and shows 2 places linked to it, Mount Tabor and Calvary. A new step forward in the rediscovery and revival of Bethany, the Arab Al-Azariya, the village of Martha, Maria and Lazarus. After 5 months of work taking advantage of the absence of visitors due to the coronavirus pandemic, the tomb from which Jesus resurrected his friend Lazarus shines new light.
L'obiettivo principale è che è migliorare la visita anche ai pellegrini.
The main objective was to improve the visit for the pilgrims, especially for those less fortunate than us, who are older and have difficulty accessing the place, but also to improve the climate inside the tomb because there was a great humidity and an uncomfortable atmosphere. We tried with the technological means to improve the visit and also the prayer inside the tomb of Saint Lazarus.
Con i mezzi tecnologici di migliorare la visita e anche la preghiera all'interno della tomba di San Lazzaro.
Among the discoveries, there are also 2 ossuaries containing some bones still to be studied and dated with precision. Although the most precious thing remain the reliefs and the studies made to deepen the knowledge of a really complex archaeological site. Over the centuries, 4 churches have risen near the tomb of Lazarus, which since the 14th century borders the Al-Uzair Mosque. Only 2 centuries later, the Franciscan friars dug the new access, the one just restored. Giuseppe Fedele, consul general of Italy, arrived in Jerusalem to visit the entire area involved in the Hospitable Bethany project, carried out for over 3 years by the Mosaic Center in Jericho and the Pro Terra Sancta Association with the support of the Italian Agency for Cooperation and Development.
Un'impressione innanzitutto di orgoglio, perché credo che
Mine is first of all an impression of pride, because I believe that Italy, with its funding from the Italian cooperation, is promoting a project of great interest and great potential. The site has an enormous historical, archaeological and monumental interest, and even today it represents a beautiful testimony of coexistence and dialogue between religions, since it hosts a Muslim religious site and a series of Christian sites.
This is a very important day for us here to improve the unity between the Muslims and the Christian. In our mentality here, we believe in return to life. This is our mentality here, and we want to save this heritage, which is we are very proud. We are very grateful to the Italian government, to the Italian cooperation, and to the ATS and the whole team, which is they work in this great work here, and we are looking forward in the future to continue the whole unity of the old town of Al-Azariya.
Questo è veramente un posto.
This is a truly unique place in Jerusalem. From here we see all the Christian sanctuaries, especially the Holy Sepulchre, the Mount of Olives, but we also see the places of prayer of the Jews, the Hurva synagogue, and of the Muslims, the Mosque of Al-Aqsa.
Urva, e abbiamo i santuari dei musulmani, l'Al-Aqsa.
Mount Zion and the Old City, East and West Jerusalem, all the way to Bethlehem. The Benedictine monks of the Dormition Abbey have been enjoying this spectacular view from the 33 meters high bell tower for over a century. Theirs is an adventure that began 120 years ago on the place that reminds us of the falling asleep of Mary, who, according to tradition, preceded her Assumption. Yet, explains the prior Father Matthias, it was almost a miracle to build a church and a monastery on Mount Zion.
Siamo nel tempo musulmano, qui in Terra Santa, e allora certo nella città vecchia erano già alcune chiese.
We were under Muslim rule here in the Holy Land. Certainly in the Holy City there were already some churches, but outside there was the cenacle, which was a mosque, and around it lived Muslim families. With the visit of our king, Wilhelm II, it was possible to buy the land where today the Church of the Dormition and our Benedictine monastery are located.
Acquistare il terreno dove oggi si trova la chiesa della Dormition e il nostro monastero benedittino.
The bond with Germany, from which all the monks come, has always been very close. It passes above all through the German Holy Land Association and has been fundamental in financing the important restructuring project that will start at the beginning of 2021 and will last 2 years. It will start with the entrance to the church and the spaces open to the public and the cafeteria, which must be made accessible to all through the elimination of architectural barriers, and then it will move on to the maintenance of the monastery. An important aspect of our intervention will be dedicated to the modernization of the systems: water and sanitary, electrical, firefighting, safety. The structure has been made in an excellent way, but it is now more than 120 years old. There are leaks in the roof and in some terraces. For this reason, we will need both to intervene on the roofs and to remove all the humidity.
Un intervento sia nelle coperture, sia di togliere tutta l'umidità.
The heart of the project, however, is the upper church of the Dormition, which will see the complete renovation of the presbytery, where a new altar will be placed.
Nell'anno 2003, allora veniva quell'altare molto semplice, di legno molto semplice, solo per avere un'idea.
In 2003, we put a very simple wooden altar here, just to have an idea of where to place the new altar and how big it should be. 17 years have passed, and finally the new altar, which will be made of stone, will arrive. But not only the altar will be rebuilt. There will be new seats for the monks. The walls will be torn down left and right to create more space for the pilgrims, because the church is above all a church for pilgrims who love to celebrate Holy Mass here on Mount Zion, next to the cenacle, the place where the Eucharist was born.
Amano celebrare la Santa Messa qui sul Monte Sione accanto al cenacolo, il luogo dove è nato l'Eucaristia.
Inside the ethnographic mosaic that makes up the Holy Land, we find the Circassians, about 5,000 people who live mainly in 2 villages in Galilee, Kfar Kama and Rihania. The Circassians originated in the Caucasus Mountains, from which they were expelled after the war against Tsarist Russia.
Following the war that the Circassians fought for over 100 years, my grandfather arrived here in 1880 from the Caucasus Mountains with a desire to found an independent Circassian state.
The Circassian community is very careful to preserve its traditions and national identity, so learning the Circassian language at school is a duty.
I have a 3.5-year-old boy who speaks both Circassian and Hebrew, and also some Arabic. It is important that he speaks Circassian from birth. As a Circassian girl, I had no intention of marrying a man who did not belong to my ethnicity.
In the past, the Circassians were mostly involved in agriculture and livestock for their livelihood. Today, the Shebso family is the only one in the village of Rihania still working in those fields. The new generations, on the other hand, move away from the village to seek education in universities and a job. The way of building in the village of Rihania evokes the Caucasus Mountains. The houses are close to each other, as if to form a wall to protect the village.
At night, the two gates were closed to prevent anyone from entering. If one of the villagers saw someone come in, they would go up to the roof of the house and start shouting that a stranger had entered, and all the villagers would come out into the street to face him.
The Circassians are Sunni Muslims, and in Rihaniya they built a mosque similar to those in the Caucasus.
We are Muslims and we practice all the precepts imposed by our faith, but our mentality is closer to the European one.
A wide tradition among some Circassians states that they are of Christian origin, and this vase seems to confirm it.
From this vase we drank wine, so our roots could be Christian.
The Circassians are distinguished by their traditional dress of Caucasian origin, which symbolizes the brave warrior. The color of the dress is black, decorated with small pockets on the chest. They wore sword, dagger and boots. Today, it is considered a folkloric dress.
The hat is very characteristic, made of fur, because the climate in the Caucasus is very cold.
As far as marriage traditions are concerned, with a symbolic gesture, it is as if the young man kidnapped the girl, even if with her will and consent. Nadera tells with emotion how she met her husband, thanks to the Circassian dance company.
When I finished high school, he said to him, "Nadera, I want to kidnap you." So we set the day and time, a Friday at 7 o'clock. I waited for him at the old gate of my grandmother's house, and everything would happen without our parents' knowledge. I waited for him, and at 7 o'clock he arrived.
Today these traditions no longer exist, especially since young women are in contact with other cultures and civilizations and have adapted to contemporary customs. Local Circassians maintain relations with those living abroad through the promotion of typical and traditional festivals. There is even a national flag.
The Circassian flag includes, as you can see, 12 stars, symbol of the 12 Circassian tribes. The 3 arrows symbolize the air, the sea and the land, while the green symbolizes the green region of the Caucasus and the mountains, because the Circassians have always lived in the mountains and in hot and cold areas.
This green stone was brought by the winds and history from the Caucasus Mountains to enrich the ethnographic mosaic of the Holy Land. In the 4th catechesis dedicated to the Our Father, Pope Francis continues to talk about Jesus' praying and narrates the episode of the Transfiguration that took place here on Mount Tabor. This mount is located in Galilee, 450 meters above sea level. According to an ancient tradition, here Jesus took Peter, James and John and went up the mountain to pray. While he prayed, his face was transformed and his clothes turned bright white. And there were 2 characters who spoke with him, Moses and Elijah, who appeared wrapped in glory and spoke of his death, which would occur in Jerusalem. According to the pontiff, in Luke's narration, the episode of the Transfiguration becomes a moment of prayer.
Il Signore Gesù sta praticamente in cammino verso questo santo luogo.
The Lord Jesus is basically on his way to this holy place, Calvary, to deliver himself. By transforming himself through prayer, from the human form into the glory he will receive at the peak of his life, he shows us that we too are called to something beyond our human form. Obviously, through prayer, he supports us, strengthens us, moves us forward.
Ovviamente attraverso questa preghiera che ci sostiene, che ci fortifica, che ci porta avanti.
Jesus intercedes with God for us. As an example, the Holy Father remembers when Christ intercedes for Peter, who will soon deny him. He says, "Simon, Simon, behold, Satan has asked you to sift as wheat is sifted. But I have prayed for you, that your faith may not fail, and you, when you are converted, you shall strengthen your brothers."
Questo a noi ci dà la speranza.
This gives us hope, knowing that Jesus prayed for Peter, that Jesus prays for us, knowing that Jesus is still praying for me, brings this hope, a hope that cannot disappoint us.
Una speranza che non può deluderci.
Even the death of the Messiah is immersed in an atmosphere of prayer, affirms the Holy Father, to the point that the hours of the Passion seem to be characterized by surprising calm. Jesus consoles women, prays for those who crucified him, promises paradise to the good thief, and breathes, saying, "Father, into your hands I put my spirit."
Questa atmosfera di preghiera, il Signore trova la forza.
In this atmosphere of prayer, the Lord finds the strength to fulfill his mission. He will give his life for us, and this becomes a model also in our lives. Where there is chaos, despair, darkness, anguish, through prayer we too can find an answer.
Possiamo anche noi trovare una risposta.
The pontiff continues, "What does Jesus say to the one who knocks on the door and wakes his friend? I tell you," Jesus explains, "that even if he does not get up because he is his friend, at least he will get up because of his impertinence and give him everything he needs." With this, he wants to teach us to pray and to insist in prayer. The Heavenly Father, who is good par excellence, will answer our prayers as long as we persevere. Finally, the Pope tells us that our prayer changes reality in any case. Perhaps what we ask for does not come as we have asked. Nevertheless, our reality changes because our heart, through prayer, purifies itself.